What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the BlockHash podcast. Today, have another wonderful and exciting guest in Amadeo Brands. We'll call him Dio for the show. He's the co-founder and CEO of YieldNest, an asset management layer for restaking, where they deliver an easy solution for ETH holders to natively restake their ETH. Ethereum restaking is a really big thing right now. It's kind of busted onto the scene, and it's something that is going to be very big in the ecosystem, and YieldNest is doing some incredible things. So, Dio, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here and to dive deeper into what you guys are doing at YieldNest. How are you doing today?
Very happy to be here and excited to dive deep in the wonderful world of restaking, shared security. And to start off, like restaking is the fourth crypto economic paradigm for blockchains, in my opinion. And more about that down the line.
Let's do this to kick it off. Would love to learn a bit about your story, if you don't mind. I'm sure people will be very curious. Who is Amadeo Brands? What have you done prior to Web3, and what kind of led you into what you do now and co-founding YieldNest? What's your story?
Yeah, so I started in crypto in 2012, and I saw kind of bought my first Bitcoin and back then didn't really understand it. My background is computer science and economics. So I worked for different IT firms in the Netherlands. I'm Dutch originally. So I worked back in the day. I started with small, I had some web agencies, I did some websites, some web apps and stuff like that. Then I actually rolled into more banking and backend systems, and I went more like a backend engineer. So I did the kind of the full stack route. And then I stumbled upon crypto while I was working in this kind of semi-government organization in the Netherlands where they give mortgage insurances. I was thinking to myself, I learned about smart contracts. I already knew a little bit about Bitcoin from all the way back in 2012, just out of interest. But especially when Ethereum came to the scene with smart contracts, wow, it clicked for me. And I was like, we can replace all of these complicated stacks and integrations with these bank or the insurance companies have to integrate. We can just do that with one smart contract that with one key, in a more decentralized way, not even for completely decentralized systems, but also just for making general systems more efficient. I saw that and I dove in, and then I saw it's a bit early. So I started working for some hedge funds in Amsterdam. I started working for the first crypto hedge funds in the Netherlands in 2015, 16. And that went very well. We built out this strategy, and I was managing different crypto portfolios for people, always kind of more on the technical side. So I was not the main founder of these funds. I was kind of hired to manage all the technical complexities of managing large amount of crypto assets, accounting them, analyzing what are the next opportunities, etc. And that went pretty well. And then I like that, and I kind of got excited about just the whole crypto scene, and I was like, hey, what's the next step, right? And this was 2018, 2019, and I started a course to educate people about DeFi, because DeFi for me was like, wow, everything comes together, where before blockchains are just this hash machine, what do we do with a hash? And then DeFi came to the scene. It's like, wow, DeFi is amazing. And I dove really deep into DeFi. I did some little bit of and I started to do some open source work. I started to contribute to certain code bases. Worked a bit with Curve Finance on the LlamaRisk team. I worked with MakerDAO as an ambassador. I worked with different protocols, and always kind of more on the technical or on the research side of things. And then around a year ago, I founded YieldNest because I saw restaking as this kind of next evolution, where we first had blockchains, smart contracts, DeFi, and then restaking as a fourth step.
You mentioned the beginning, restaking being the fourth paradigm here within Web3. What do you mean by that? And why is restaking important? Why is it cool? Why is it so big right now?
Yeah, well, the TLDR for everybody to understand, it would be do you stake your money into a traditional bank and do you support that system? Or do you want to kind of stake or have your money in this new decentralized financial system and stake in that system, make that system better, right? I see money as monetary energy. And if we, let's say money is voting. So if we actually put the money in the traditional banking system, we're voting for that system, right? If we're putting our money into crypto economic systems, we're voting for that system. And then in crypto economics, you can also vote for USDC or USDT or some more centralized blockchains, or you can vote on some ETH, pure ETH, like Frax or Curve, or these blue chip ETH DeFi systems. That's kind of what I mean with restaking, that you can vote like your money either in a bank or in crypto. And why it's a fourth crypto economic paradigm is because with decentralized finance, well, blockchains just gave us like state machines, gave us like truth machines. We can hash data, write once, read many, RAM, like write once, read many. We can just have we can have the truth. We can hash the truth in a general ledger, and I can tell you something now that like, okay, like this is this is what's up, etc., etc. Yeah, so like we can truth machines. Then from blockchains we get smart contracts. We can actually now with smart contract we can encode logic into things. We can say like, okay, this happened, and then that happens. Like if this, then that. Right? So the standard programming languages can be built, and it's Turing complete languages on Ethereum. Kind of was the first, where Bitcoin was a bit like a bit stringent. We only want to be, and then ETH was a bit more flexible. And now we get a whole other like discussions after that, right? But not going to get into for now. And then the third side was DeFi, decentralized financial systems, where we have decentralized systems where we say like, okay, we're going to take kind of like financial use cases, and we're going to build like actual financial systems so we can interact with one another, we can coordinate value to one another, build escrow contracts, build all these cool things that you can actually build with smart contracts. Then restaking. After that, it's more that we kind of take those kind of coordination or like truth commitments, hash them on a blockchain, and actually use them for external services. And that is such a new paradigm, and it gives such many new possibilities. And not many people fully understand it yet, including myself. It's a new primitive. It's similar when DeFi just came out, all the way back in like 2017, 2018. I don't know if there's anybody in the audience that ever used MakerDAO interface. It's like this. It was like this really weird interface, right? And like it was really unclear. Like when I first heard about CDPs, like collateralized debt positions in DeFi, or lending and borrowing in DeFi. Although I did I did a bit of finance in the university, but I was like, why would I do that? Like, But now we have all these huge protocols, Aves and curves, and etc. And the same thing is going to happen with restaking. It's still a little bit unclear what we can do with it, but I can talk very long about all the possibilities that may be possible theoretically, right? And there's still a lot of things that need to be built, and that's why I think people are very excited. And it's this new paradigm where we can take an incredible, like a commitment on a blockchain. It doesn't necessarily have to be ETH, but I think ETH is the highest settlement assurance blockchain. So it makes, in my opinion, restaking on ETH makes the most sense. Then we settle something there. We make an agreement. I say, if this happens, then here's my money on ETH. If you can prove that happened, I will give you the money, and we can enshrine that commitment via restaking into blockchains.
Interesting. I know it's such a big thing right now. Like there's a lot of different protocols trying to do the same thing with restaking. Like there's this whole like restaking wars essentially kind of going on, everyone kind of competing, which is fun to see, and it's emerged very, very quickly. I mean, you talked, theoretically about the different possibilities for where it might be able to go. What comes to mind when you think of where maybe restaking could take us?
Yeah, maybe first a little bit about the wars, right? Like, and every innovation in crypto, we've seen it over and over again. How many Uniswap V2 forks did we seen in the years, right? Like, there's so many, right? So restaking is still at that kind of that stage of like finding product market fit, right? That's what it is. So right now, EigenLayer kind of came on the stage, and they were. They said this is restaking is new crypto. It's not really true, because restaking is something very old. Like all things, like smart contracts have been tried on Bitcoin, but they kind of were pushed away. Restaking has been tried on Bitcoin, but there were some technical issues with restaking on Bitcoin. It's called merge mining, right? They tried that, but with merge mining, you have this issue, the nothing at stake problem. So if you do merge mining and there's like a miner that can attack another chain, they will just do it, right? That was a problem with Bitcoin, right? Then on Cosmos, people also tried restaking already. So Cosmos chains with Atom and other things, they have been trying to do restaking and have the Atom chain trying to secure things, and then restaking on other services. That never really took off because it was too complex to explain, and they didn't manage to get enough TVR. What EigenLayer did, they came to the stage and they did this game very well, and they now have the supply side. Now they have to create the demand side. So that's where we're at right now, I think. And the restaking wars, it's funny because now everybody's kind of copying EigenLayer, not really understanding like, they just managed the supply side.
Hmm.
But the most important thing to focus on is the demand side of this restake security, right? So there's a whole war going on with getting more supply side, where I think we should more focus on demand side, and that's what we're also mostly focused on.
What is your guys's place in this with YieldNest? What are you guys doing differently, maybe to help set you guys apart from the competition in this restaking wars that's going on? How do you guys make it simple to use? How do you make it secure? How do you make it easy and functionally for people to access?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So how is YieldNest different from, for example, an EtherFi or Renzo, etc.? Well, right now the differentiation factors are quite hard to understand, right? Because EigenLayer and Symbiotic and other restaking protocols still need to bring out a lot of their stack still. But we are talking with the EigenLayer engineers, we are talking with the Symbiotic engineers, and we, from the get-go, we're not really focused on the point farming side of things. That's why we also started a bit later. I didn't expect the point farming to take off as it did, to be honest, but I'm happy it did, because that just made the supply side go up in value to $20 billion literally overnight, right? Which was incredible to see. So we were not into like just point farming, right? Because the others are, a lot of people think like these LRTs is just like, oh, I put my money here and just get points, right? Well, it's more about risk underwriting, or how do we create capital structures or structured products, or how do we package these restake products so they're actually useful for different AVSs, networks, or I call them more like restake applications, right? That's what YieldNest is mostly focused on, and I would say that is mainly our focus at this moment. And how does that translate into products? Well, you can now go to yieldnest.finance. You can visit our app, and you will see there we have Y and ETH, right? So Y and ETH is native restaking, and you can see we isolate that basket, right, where others just basket it and just like they don't really seem to think about the future of like, where is this going? Where's the real yield going to come from? So we isolate the Y and ETH, right, and then we have AVS categories underneath that we with our internal risk team kind of analyze in a very, very in-depth manner. So you can read the EigenDA report that we wrote. You can see all the different categories that we built that soon will be open source, and people can add categories or add AVS or networks. And we also launched YieldLSD. So YieldLSD is a restake token that will be restaking on all the different restaking platforms. And it's a bit of a surprise for me personally, actually, that it went so fast. But it came around, and now there is already many restake platforms. It makes it quite confusing for the end users. So what we do, people restake with YieldNest, and we kind of rebalance it over all these different restake platforms and make sure to, one, protect them against slashing that will come very soon, and also trying to maximize risk-adjusted returns. So trying to see like, where can we get the most yields? Oh, Symbiotic still has a point program. All right, we're going to dedicate a bit to Symbiotic. But EigenLayer actually in a couple of days, or at the end, I think on the 20th, we'll start to the AVSs. So then we need to restake that capital there. So we're rebalancing for a user between these different restake platforms by not like, and a lot of the other platforms, like I'm not going to name names, but they're always like kind of flashing with points and this and that. We are just giving the real risk-adjusted rates. You cannot give EigenLayer points, Symbiotic points, and all these other points. No, you need to pick one restake platform, and that's where you kind of restake, where your asset then will be at risk to slashing, or you risk underwrite certain services, right? And we structure our products from the get-go in that way, in that kind of more way with a vision to the future of like, where is the real yield going to come from? How are AVSs really going to produce value for the overall DeFi ecosystem? There you go. So YieldNest just launched it last week, and that's currently there's a merger on the way. So there's more TVL coming in with PrimeETH. I can talk about that later. But you can see there on the left side, like YieldNest is a full-fledged, full-life product. You can see the AVS categories right there. You can see all the different like restake servers that we will restake to, and what's going to happen with YieldLSD, and also soon YieldUSD and YieldBTC, and basically any asset can be restaked, will be restaked, right? So it's going to be like this inception, because like EigenLayer and Symbiotic kind of make this like sound like, oh, we have to assets very carefully or something. No, like in a restake protocol, you can basically accept any asset, use that in any AVS, and then secure certain risks, right? The challenge is that these applications, they will need to work quite closely with the LRTs to get that kind of consistent capital in, and to have some capital commitments, or have some commitments, so like, hey, we're going to restake here, and we're going to make these kind of custom slashing conditions, or these conversations need to happen more. And right now it's only about like, oh, you put it here, the TVL, I'm just 2.4. No, that is going to go away. And actually EigenLayer is going to do their second airdrop very soon, and then those EigenLayer points will stop, right? And Symbiotic is still doing points, but there's point fatigue. I think points at the end people understand like, we cannot really trust these points, etc. So that is going to go away, and it's going to be real yield, real, like, like similar to like an insurance company. If I invest in an insurance company, they underwrite risks. You inject your money into this insurance pile, and there are certain policies and risks, and they do all these calculations, and that's where restaking is going to go, and it's going to help us to solve a lot of problems in DeFi, and it's going to help us to solve a lot of problems in the real world.
Can you touch on the EigenLayer a little bit? I know that's a big aspect for YieldNest, just for those out there that maybe aren't familiar with what it is.
So EigenLayer is a restaking protocol, right? So what it does,
dedicated to restaking.
Thing that what EigenLayer does is like a coordination machine. So EigenLayer has a lot of operators, and these operators will run certain off-chain services or on-chain services. You can run any service, right? Then there is a application, right, that will then be run on these operators. And there's restakers that give their money to these operators because they say the restakers can underwrite the risk that these operators will behave correctly, right, for these AVSs. And the AVS come in, they have the application, they one click and deploy, get some rewards, and their application will be deployed on a bunch of operators in a stoppable manner, right? So it is like, I don't know if your users are familiar with Vercel. With Vercel, you can you have some code, you have a GitHub page, you go to Vercel, you say load my GitHub, and it spins up a website for you, right? It's the same thing with EigenLayer and restaking, same thing with Symbiotic, same thing with other restaking protocols, that you have these applications, you can put them on these operators, and then you say like, all right, like run my application, and then what EigenLayer adds to that is the economic security or forkability, and there's a lot of other things they're working on at the moment. As I said in the beginning, it's a new crypto primitive, so it's like theoretically there's all these things, but I think I always like to go to first principles, and it's just underwriting, right? Or it's like this, like the restaker gives their capital, and they say like, oh, I trust this operator with like $1 million or $10,000. Here's money, and then these operators need to do their job, right? And then the AVS is like, oh, there's a lot of money to this operator, so it's probably a good operator, because if it was not a good operator, these people that give money to this operator will lose money.
What do you guys do in terms of maybe incorporating a form of risk management or due diligence for restaking? Obviously, we live in a Web3 crypto world. People like to speculate. They like to stake this, stake that, put their digital assets here and there. There's a lot of moving pieces, and unfortunately in the Web3 world, especially over the last few years, there's been a lot of people putting their money in the wrong places and accidentally losing it, or hacks or scams or phishing. How do you guys try to manage some of those risks for users, and what are some maybe best practices or things you recommend them doing when it comes to restaking?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And basically, as I said in the beginning, a lot of the EigenLayer stacks still need to be produced, right? So a lot of the protocols do not really think about risk management at the moment, because right now the risks you have is just multi-sig risk, right? EigenLayer or others, because the slashing is not activated yet. But what did YieldNest do? We took LlamaRisk from Curve Finance, that I actually, as I said in the beginning, I worked with LlamaRisk in the past and Curve Finance, analyzed all these reports. We took that risk management approach and white labeled it as YieldNest Risk Team, as an external organ. And basically all the AVS strategies, so all the different baskets, all the operators, all the AVSs are being analyzed by the YieldNest Risk Team. being scored and being then added to these different baskets, right? Or isolated baskets. So we have a whole risk team that any of the restake actions that we do will be analyzed by the YieldNest. So this YieldNest curated product. So YieldNest is kind of curating these products for the end users, so they don't have to think about it. So we're going into EigenLayer, we're going into Symbiotic and all these other restake protocols, and we're getting that extra yield. How much that will be, nobody really knows at this stage, right? But it's the same like when we had the LSDs come out, right? We first had all these DeFi integrations, DeFi protocols, wanted to just use ETH or Bitcoin, but now it's more capital efficient to use restaked ETH, for example, in certain DeFi protocols, right? Now, and that's also what YieldNest wants to do. We want to create these really like kind of nice assets to be used in DeFi, created by YieldNest, and that's it, right? And then underneath that, we will also have our stack that's open for other people to create their own LRTs, or for people to help, like we can co-curate the LRTs. So that's like the next step.
Speaking of next steps, do you guys imagine YieldNest, forever existing on Ethereum's blockchain and Ethereum's ecosystem, or would you want products on other chains in the future? Because I know that maybe it could be even further dynamic restaking, maybe on other chains too.
Yeah, the great question, right? So we start on ETH because ETH has these highest settlement assurances, and from a restake protocol perspective, that makes a lot of sense, right? We're looking into Bitcoin restaking, but in my opinion, the best Bitcoin layer 2 is ETH itself. So we're then taking Bitcoin and then probably wrapping it in ERC20s and then do stuff with that, and then still have that Bitcoin in a restaked asset to secure assets with if people want to. And we're also working on BNB chain restaking. So we're also looking into Binance at the moment, right? And I have a bit of a spicy take, and I think that actually, I think Binance settlement assurances are higher settlement assurances than Solana, for example, right? That's like my opinion, because if I see, like you have ETH, which is you have Bitcoin, which I think ETH has the highest settlement assurances than Bitcoin, right? Proof of work, etc. But then if you look into like the other things below that and the other restake ecosystems below that, you get like Solana or something like that, or a lot of other L1s or L2s is a different story. But the L1s, you can restake on L1 because you need to have that settlement assurance. If I make an agreement with you, that needs to settle to something very hard, right? Else you can have a reorg, or you can like, oh, this is not what we agreed, or this didn't settle, or this didn't happen. Like, we need to have high settlement assurances for restake applications, in my opinion. And on Solana, like, I question it. There was that came up because Shiram, the founder of EigenLayer, had this debate with Tolly from Solana, and they had this fight about if decentralization was important or not. And I think it's kind of funny that Solana is like, decentralization is not that important, and we do everything for speed, right? And then at the same time, they're criticizing the L2 architecture because it's centralized, right? And there was a whole debate about that. And then actually, if you look at it, like Binance restaking, or Binance, just the Binance BNB Smart, the Binance chain, where I was also a bit like, the CZ meme, where you see all these, CZs running the validators, right? Because it was delegated proof of stake. Binance actually slowly moving away for that. And we're exploring like native restaking with Binance, and we're exploring this BNB restaking with Binance. And that means that if we increase the validator set of Binance, you actually get more validators, you get more validator set, and you don't go from a honest majority, which is delegated proof of stake is always like you trust the honest majority, right? Where it goes then more into like this more actually full decentralization like ETH or Bitcoin has, right? And that's also what Binance seems to be pushing for. So that's, I think, it's a good development. So we're looking into Binance Smart Chain, and we're looking into Ethereum at the moment, and Bitcoin. Yeah.
Interesting. Is that something you guys want to do in the near term or later down the line, maybe in a few years, or what's the plan?
That's a good question. Well, so the Binance restake stack is like almost ready to go. So that could be next week that we're gonna launch a product for that. Crypto is moving very, very fast. We're coding, we're podcasts, we're doing everything at the same time. But we have the product probably ready. We can have the product ready like tomorrow for that, because we have that stack. We have we finished our stack to build these LRTs, so we can do it quite quick. but we want to package it in a good way. We want to we get support. We want to get some support from Binance that's kind of on board with this, and then we want to launch it in a good way. So probably in a week or two, it's going to go live. Ideally before token 2049. That's kind of like the plan that we have there.
I also want to talk about some of the micro elements to YieldNest as well, so for users and usability. Is there like a lockup time for unstaking your restaked ETH? If so, what does that kind of look like? Like, do you have to leave it there for a period of time? Any rule sets?
Yeah, so right now we started with YieldNest, and the YieldNest withdrawals are not live yet because, as I said, EigenLayer is still in full development, and we choose to not integrate. Like, it's a bit technical, but EigenLayer has M1, M2, and M3, and we're integrating with M3, meaning that we are kind of the latest iteration of this native restaking, and we have that live probably around the 20th of September. So that's fantastic. And then people can just withdraw, and when people withdraw from YieldNest, they will be subjective to a 7-day withdrawal time from EigenLayer and a withdrawal time from the beacon chain itself, because it's native restaking. The second YieldLSD will have withdrawals soon as well. And these withdrawals are just subjective to the certain AVSs or to EigenLayer's queue of 7 days. What I think is going to happen, as I said before, I think these products will be really packaged in different ways, because I think there will be AVSs that will say like, well, we want to have a commitment of like 30 days. We want to have a commitment of 10 days. So I think it's going to be this whole dynamic thing with different risks. And that's not fully clear now, but that's where the industry is moving. So it's going to be very dynamic. Like, depending on which product you select, you will get certain withdrawal times. But for now, it's 7 days from EigenLayer and then the beacon chain.
And then in terms of wallet compatibility, can someone just connect their typical MetaMask wallet or Coinbase wallet, or is it something in particular?
No, it's pure DeFi, and YieldNest, it has the romantic ambition to be a protocol with sub-DAOs. So we are striving towards becoming a full-fledged liquid restake protocol, right? With certain DeFi structured products. And the idea is to eventually have this completely given back to the community and have like certain sub-DAOs where people will be active. I will obviously stay active forever, but like you have different groups that come in, etc. So it's a fully EVM-based stack for now, and you can connect with your MetaMask, your Wallet Connect, or any of the Web3 services that you're used to using on Ethereum or any L2 or any EVM chain.
And then outside of raw DeFi itself, like, do you have plans for or imagine any of these LRTs being tradable or usable on other public exchanges or accessible in other third-party places?
Yeah, I think eventually a couple of these LRTs that are constructed in the best way, and I think TVL is a bit of a vanity metric so early on in the cycle, because like I think that these games will switch, right? You can see ETHFi is good because they're also open source. Renter is closed source. It's like you need to see like what of these assets will survive. And similar to Lido or Rocket Pool, which you can now also trade on a lot of centralized exchanges, it's going to go in that direction as well. But it will take some time. It will take some volume. Centralized exchanges just want volume. And I'm actually of the belief that everything will be DeFi in the end, right? I think the centralized exchanges are going to be choked by regulations and other like components, and eventually we will only have decentralized financial layers where people will plug into via different apps that we don't know how that will work, but probably maybe something with restaking that will help that. And I don't think we will need centralized exchanges in the future.
Do you think some of these centralized entities, platforms, corporations could maybe benefit from LRTs as well, from restaking? I figure, in certain industries, especially, there could be a lot of interest with if tokenization gets as big as I imagine it will. I mean, you're talking about tons of value on chain, you're talking about property and real estate and a lot of things that, ideally could be restaked in a sense. I feel like there's maybe a market there for LRTs too.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know, you saw the stream. My internet is a little bit unstable here, right? But like the stream kind of went off. But what I mean with that is that is a service that restaking could offer, right? So it could be an SLA, is a service level agreement, right? So with StreamYard right now, And you could say like, I really want to have a good connection. I'm going to sit here, please check my connection, and I'm going to pay $10. But I want to have a real connection. If the connection breaks down for whatever reason, I want to get like a refund. If anything happens with the stream, we want to have rebate, right? These are things we can build with restaking. We can build a lot of these services. We can rebuild the whole SLA infrastructure. We can also, maybe a bit more scary, we can rebuild the full mortgage-backed insurance market on chain with restaking. We can do instant dispute resolution. So if we have an agreement, we sign this agreement with our crypto wallets, and these agreements are on chain, and there's instant dispute resolutions. If we make it some sort of an agreement, there's not like, oh, we need to go to a court, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. No, they can be instantly settled because it's crypto, and the money is going from A to B like just a digital. It's like money is a content type. Money is like a digital form.
Yeah, I could see a lot of use cases popping up for that. Someone's wanting to use YieldNest. Maybe they're a newbie. Maybe they're, just figured out staking and now they're like restaking. Do you guys have like any resources, educational content, courses, guides, things to kind of help people get their feet wet? And then maybe even for developers too that are wanting to play around with this.
Yeah, amazing. I think, yes, so starting with just everybody, go to YieldNest.finance. We have a website that explains, actually on our landing page, we explain everything about what restaking is and what it's going to do. We have our Medium page with a lot of articles. We have our Twitter, we're sharing a lot. And we have the YieldNest Risk team, where we share really in-depth articles. So the YieldNest Risk team is going really in-depth, in detail into these different topics like EigenLayer, or we wrote a whole article on the state of Symbiotic, which is another restake protocol than EigenLayer. We're now working on this article. That's why I mentioned it, of like the settlement assurances and where does restaking make the most sense. Because you have restaking on Solana, restaking on Bitcoin, restaking on Binance, restaking on Polygon, I think. And it's all going to be this inception-like thing, because everybody sees like, wow, there's money, and then everybody will try to copy it. But where does it really make sense, right? So we're going in the YieldNest, we're going really in depth into like semi-academic articles to do that. And Medium is just high level, and the website is high level. And of course, just go to our website and go to our app. It should be very straightforward to use. And if there's any questions, you can go in Telegram or Discord, or DM me or tweet, like shoot me a tweet or something, and I'll be happy to always respond to any questions.
How can people find you on Twitter? What's your handle?
My handle is my full name. Like I started Twitter a long time ago, and I just used my full name, but it's fine. It's Amadeo @Amadeo Brands. So easy, @Amadeo Brands. Probably we can link it in the show notes.
Dio, this has been a great episode. Thank you again so much for taking the time to come on and talk more about not just what you guys are doing with YieldNest, but this whole idea of restaking. I keep hearing it and I keep seeing it everywhere. And apparently it really is like this whole thing now. And it's very fascinating. I think maybe some of the applications and use cases that it can apply to here in the near term, in the near future as well. So thank you for elaborating on it and sharing the potential for it and what you guys are doing and helping pioneer in it. And looking forward to see how you guys continue to evolve.
Likewise, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'd love to do this again in some time to revisit where the world of blockchains and restaking has gone. And yeah, it's a whole debate, right? Because it's also an experimental thing, right? Like we don't know. Like a lot of these blockchain, a lot of the cryptographic experiments, they're all experiments, and we're all experimenting. And but I do think this is the right direction to go. And I'm very hopeful and excited about the future of restaking and decentralized financial applications in general.
Yeah, Web3 is a never-ending experiment, constantly evolving every single day.
Yeah, but there is some realness in it, right? Like we know, a lot of it is unfortunate. I say 95% of crypto is opportunistic, right? Like say it nicely, but like there's a couple of people like yourself, other people working really hard to try to change something and try to make a world where we are in control of our own money, we are in control of our own finances, and we are in control of reality and truth, right? Because like there's so much weirdness going on in the world today, and I think blockchains and truth machines and truth and decentralized is very much needed for society right now. So let's see where it's going to go.
Absolutely. It's the future. You guys are the future. All right, man. Great episode.
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon. Take care.